Hello, awesome people. I hope you are having an amazing day today. Today, I wanted to take a look at my review of Drums on Fire Mountain. It's X8 in the series, but in the Back Me series from 1984 for you folks. I just recently did a review of H.P. Lovecraft's controversial and racist short story called The Horror at Red Hook from the Pulpit. I thought it might be fun for me to also do this too, and so forth. The controversial one from the 80s too, and so forth, and knock this out for you folks. And do it as my review on the Mondays that I typically dedicate to war games or role-playing games and that sort of a thing, and such, right? And such. So now we're knocking this out, and so forth. So again, this is X8 Drums on Fire Mountain for you folks. So this is published again for the Back Me series in 1984 in the Expert series or Exploration, and that's sort of what the X stands in this. Now this is a Back Me module, and what that means is this is more the Back Me stands for, the B stands for basic, and that's sort of the beginner level for the first couple levels up to level 3. Expert then takes you, and that's all about basic dungeon explorations, finding your stuff, figuring out the game, who you are, and that sort of a thing, right? So that is the core of the basic side of things. They're all, and their modules are all about, and this is are all about, dungeon diving. And then the X's, starting with X1, the Isle of Dread, are all about exploration, and that's the expert level stuff. And so this is an expert module, and you can tell that from the AX. The C in Back Me stands for companion. That's about like building your empires and domains, leading armies into battle as a general or an admiral for navies, that sort of a thing. And the M in Back Me stands for the master level. Those are the last final 10 levels, and so forth. And that's all about seeking the paths to immortality. And then the I in Back Me stands for immortality, the immortals, and that sort of a thing. All right, so those are the different BECMI stand for, and so forth. So we are now in the X's. Now, the first two X's are absolute classics. Castle Amber at X2 and X1 at the Isle of Dread, and so forth. Now, this is the X8. There are some other ones in here, ending prior to this, that are also pretty good too. Like the Master of the Desert Nomads, Temple of Death are a pretty good duo by David Cook. Great stuff, level dots. But basically what's happening here is, spoilers, this is a little less strong in some ways, although it's better than some things like Quagmire, stuff like that too. Alright, so this is written by Tom Kirby and Graeme Morris in the TSR UK office rather than the ones in the US at the time. So it has a lot of the US, rather than having US assumptions and biases and so forth, it has the British ones instead. So it's more of a British base and so forth, just a heads up. Their stuff tends to be a little different. They approach module building very differently, and that sort of a thing. Like there is a series called the UK series, UK 1 through 7, and they're very different. Like Beyond the Crystal Cave, you can actually get through it without fighting anybody. You can just roleplay your way through it. Imagine that, right? And that sort of a thing. So they did stuff like that, a level lots, and then so forth. So they are the people that are doing this, all right? And the art is by Brian Williams. All right, this is highly controversial, and like I said, I just did H.P. Lovecraft thing, so I thought it might be fun for me to start doing my deeper dives into some D&D modules. I spent about 7 videos for you folks, doing my top 10s of modules from number 1 to number 70 for you folks. And I thought, it might be fun for me to start doing reviews of some of these and so forth. This might be a fun one to start off with. And that's everything. All right. So this is set on a volcanic island in the Sea of Dread that you have to explore. For you folks, you have a limited time based on what's happening in the plot. No plots, no spoilers, and that sort of thing. But basically, what's happening is you have to explore the island and the dungeons underneath 2. So you do have a limited time window based on what is happening with the plot in this volcanic island in the Sea of Dread. For you folks, this was actually warmly received at the time. There were critics saying it's got some great use of the third dimension height rather than just 2-dimension stuff. It's actually right. There was one critic, Wendy Rose, who said that it was because of how thinky it has to be at times. There's actually quote a fair amount of brain as well as brawn, unquote, to get through it. It's actually getting some good solid reviews at the time, and so forth, and was warmly received. It has a lot of things to do, a lot of map stuff, right? A lot of space for you to explore on this island, and then the stuff underneath it, right? So it actually was warmly received at the time. All right, so also next, it does add, like a lot of the UK stuff, it adds some monsters to Beckme and D&D that are pretty good, that are pretty unique, and that sort of a thing too. All right, now what happens here, what's making it controversial and so forth, is that there's a sub-race of green-skinned orcs with a Samoan feel to them instead of the regular things and so forth. Their picture is on the front cover, and I'm not showing you that cover when I typically here, show you for the things that I'm reviewing, right? I'm not showing you that. The picture on the front cover is not clean. It's not devoid of biases, right? And so it's not exactly. I'm not showing it since it's not really TSR at its best. Right, even in the 84 time. So I don't consider that art to be particularly good, or that concept of the Samoan orcs to be particularly done artistically throughout this either. So that's where some of the controversial comes from, is this concept and the art and so forth. So I have run this myself as a dungeon master in my Isle of Dread campaign. From what I mentioned earlier, next one, we had after my party finished running this on the Isle of Dread and things, doing all the explorations, and I also added some things to it, like the White Plume Mountain. I added to the Isle of Dread. I also added the Slavers series in various islands around the Isle of Dread, that sort of a thing. So I also added them in too, and so I added, the temple. Of the hidden ruins of hidden shrine of, and I hope I pronounced this right, Tomoa-chan. I added that to it too. So there are a lot of those sorts of things that I added here and there. So that was good stuff too. And so after they were done, we then ran the X solo module, Lathan's Gold, where you're exploring the Sea of Dread rather than the Isle of Dread, and so forth. And this I added to it. And one of the islands that they came across and just explored. And because of that, they didn't have the time plot base, that they could only have a limited time to fix themselves, heal themselves, and explore as fast as possible. And that sort of a thing. So I removed that element from me. Just a heads up, I've also played it as a player too, so forth too, and I recruited the evil daughter of who's a very different element than the big bad, who I like too. I think he's well fleshed out, and I gave her a potion of ESP, and I made him answer questions, showing that he didn't care for her at all, and it was a one-sided relationship. And then so she joined my party, and it said that sort of thing. So what do I think? Actually, I think it's fine. I'm fine. If you say I'm not going to play it, I'm not going to run it. I don't like the racist overtones, the biases that are here, the art, the Samoan orcs, and so forth. That's fine. I'm not going to lose any sleep. You do you, right? And so forth. I hear you. But I do think that, however, there's a lot here to appreciate from a DM and a player's feel. So, like I said, it's hard. And specifically, if you play it on the time window, you won't have a lot of time to rest and recuperate and re-heal yourselves and that sort of a thing, right? So that's that's also out there too. And so for the creatures that are added that are not the orc subrace, are I think very strong, very interesting, and do some different things that monsters didn't do either. So I think that's a fun addition to the game. And so forth, and I like the tension that this module has to it. It's well fleshed out, like they said before. There's a lot to do. You need to think through it, not just punch through it. And that's sort of the thing, right? I think it's good stuff here, and I think it's a good module. Now, I don't think it's a great module. I don't think it's a perfect module. Nope. I don't think it's an okay module or a bad module or a poor module. I just think it's good. Some of them get a 7 out of 10 for you folks, rather than something better. So there you are. So that's my thoughts on and non-spoiler review, because there are some spoiler things that happen here. Of X8's Drums on Fire's Mountain by Graeme and from the UK team, from the 84. So there you are. So what did you think about this? And have you read it? Have you played it either as a dungeon master or as a general manager? Or as a player, like myself, and let me know what your thoughts are in the comments below, and whether or not you agree or disagree with my 7 out of 10 for you folks, and whether or not you think that this should be playable today, or just sort of like I'm fine with it either way, right? I'm not losing any sleep one way or the other. If people do decide not to run it, again, like I mentioned before, you do you, right? And this is, everybody's got to do their own thing, right? And so forth. But I do think there's a lot here to offer with those biases from the UK that came in and so forth. Right. So there you are. But then there you are. So if you like this video, why not hit the subscribe button? There's going to be a lot more of these to follow and so forth. I'm thinking about adding to this because I started doing in Battletech. I was doing my top 10 Omni-Mechs from various TROs from that war game and so forth, and then just didn't wind up having as many hits as I was expecting. And I just ranked all 16 of from the first Clan Invasion one, 16 Omni-Mechs from the clans. Again, not a lot of hits. And so forth. So I think I'm going to go back to the D&D stuff for a little bit, and I'm thinking about picking this up and doing some modules. And so I might do X1, the Olive Dread next, which is my favorite module. And so forth. So you might expect to start seeing this. If you like this and you want to see more, let me know in the comments below and what you'd like to see me do. Do you want me to see me do X1? Do you want me to see me do something else that I've done? Just let me know, right, what your thoughts are. So that's cool too. So hit the subscribe button to follow along, the like button too. If you enjoyed that, make sure your friends are watching this too, D&D friends, right? Definitely some Orbecny friends, are definitely some folks that definitely enjoy this. I'm trying to monetize this channel and so forth. So make sure you have your folks watch it and so forth too. And there you are, and spend some time with it. That's the key part. Just watching, and and because you watch this, I want to thank you so very much for taking that time out of your day and investing it and spending that time with me, right? Because we all have so many things, right, that are happening in our lives, and we're pulled in so many different directions. So the fact that you spent this time with me, that's incredibly humbling. And I appreciate it so very, very much. So thanks again. And then finally, this channel is named The Worst Thing About New Books. That's a quote by a French philosopher named Jacques Joubert, who said that the worst thing about them was that they kept us from reading the old ones, right? This is definitely some older stuff. 1984 module. That's a game that you play, but you read it first. So that counts. Anyway, but that's the key parts of this channel. And so I try to find fantasy, horror, and science fiction stuff from movies to video games to novels and short stories and so forth. I try to do 3 reviews a week rather, on older stuff in those 3 genres. So if you like that, definitely check it out again. And then thank you so much. And thanks again, and have an amazing day.